Title: Caught my wife having explicit conversations with a married coworker who just had a baby, mocking me while planning to sleep together. When I confronted them both, she kept minimizing it as just texting. I didn't mean to look at her phone. That's the truth. I wasn't snooping. I wasn't suspicious. I was just standing in the kitchen, drying my hands on a towel, when her phone lit up on the counter like it had something to say to me. Mark, work. She doesn't know how lucky she is. If she did, she'd never leave you alone with me. I froze. The smiley face sat there longer than it should have. Mocking, casual, familiar. My wife was in the shower. The water was running. Steam crept under the bathroom door like nothing in our house had just shifted. I told myself not to jump to conclusions. Mark was a coworker, married, new baby, if I remembered right. We'd even sent a card. I tapped the screen. That was the first mistake. The thread opened easily. No password, no hesitation. Like she had nothing to hide. What I saw didn't hit all at once. It came in waves, inside jokes, late night timestamps, complaints about work that slowly stopped being about work. Her. Sometimes I feel like I'm married to a roommate. Mark, that's because you deserve more than what you're getting. Then came the part that burned. Mark, if we ever get a chance, I wouldn't waste it. Her, careful, you'll get me in trouble. Followed by a laughing emoji. I set the phone down like it was hot. When she came out of the bathroom, towel wrapped around her hair, she smiled at me like she always did. Hey, she said, everything okay? I nodded, too quickly. Yeah, I said. Who's Mark? Her smile didn't disappear, but it changed. Just a flicker, like someone closing a door quietly. My coworker, she said. Why? I took a breath. Why is he texting you things like that? She shrugged, already walking past me. He jokes around. It's nothing. Nothing? I said. He's married. He just had a baby. She rolled her eyes. It's just texting. That phrase landed hard. Just texting. I followed her into the bedroom. You talk about me like I'm not even here. She stopped and turned around. Oh my God, you're overreacting. I picked up her phone and read one line out loud. Her face drained of color. That's private, she said quickly. So is a marriage, I replied. She crossed her arms, defensive now. Nothing happened, but you wanted it to. Silence. Then she said something that told me everything. You don't understand how lonely I've been. I looked at her, really looked, and realized this conversation wasn't about denial. It was about minimizing, about making me doubt my right to feel betrayed. I handed the phone back. Is he the only one? I asked. She didn't answer right away. And that pause, that was louder than any confession. She sat on the edge of the bed, phone in her hands now, thumbs pressed flat against the screen like she was trying to hold something down. I didn't answer because I knew you'd take it the wrong way, she said finally. I let out a short laugh. It surprised even me. There isn't a right way to take that, she sighed. The way someone does when they're tired of being questioned, not when they're sorry. Mark's just easy to talk to. He listens. That word again, just. I sat across from her, elbows on my knees. My voice stayed calm, almost detached. Does his wife know he listens like this? Her eyes flicked up, then away. That's not my responsibility. The room felt smaller, familiar things. The dresser we'd bought together, the picture frame from our honeymoon, suddenly felt like props from a different life. Did you ever meet him outside of work? I asked. She shook her head too fast. No, I waited. I'd learned something in my line of work years ago. Silence makes people fill the space. After a few seconds, she added, well, once, a group thing, after hours drinks. My stomach tightened. Was I invited? It was last minute. Did you tell me? No. I nodded slowly. Each answer wasn't explosive on its own. It was the pattern that hurt, the way the truth came out in pieces, like she was negotiating how much honesty I deserved. I stood up and walked to the window. Outside, a neighbor was loading groceries into his car, his kid tugging at his leg, laughing. Normal life, ordinary trust. Behind me, she spoke again. You're acting like I cheated. I'm acting like my wife let another man step into a space that used to belong to us. She stood now too. Nothing physical happened. I turned around. That's not what I asked. Her jaw clenched. What do you want me to say? The question landed wrong. It wasn't, what did I do to fix this? It was, what words will make this go away? I want you to say you shut it down, I said. That when he crossed a line, you stopped him. She hesitated, just for a beat. Then, I didn't encourage it. That wasn't an answer. I picked up my jacket. She noticed. Where are you going? She asked. I need air, I said. And I need to think. She followed me to the door. You're blowing this up. I opened it and paused. You didn't tell me because you knew it mattered. She didn't respond. Out in the car, I sat with the engine off, hands on the wheel, staring straight ahead. My phone buzzed, a message from an unknown number. Mark, hey man, your wife seems upset. I think you misunderstood some things. I felt something settle in my chest then. Not rage, not panic, clarity. He hadn't just crossed a line with her, he'd crossed one with me, and the worst part, she hadn't stopped him. I didn't reply to Mark. That was the first decision I made that night that felt like it belonged to me again. Instead, I drove. No destination, just movement. I needed space between my thoughts and the house that suddenly felt unfamiliar. Every red light gave my mind time to rewind the last few months. Late nights she blamed on deadlines, the way she'd started angling her phone away from me on the couch, how she laughed at messages she never shared. I'd told myself I was being paranoid. That marriage meant trust. That suspicion was a weakness. By the time I pulled into a 24-hour diner parking lot, my coffee was cold and my hands were steady. I texted her once, I'm not coming back tonight. We'll talk tomorrow. She didn't reply. That silence told me more than any argument could have. Inside the diner, I sat alone in a booth and ordered coffee I didn't drink. I opened my laptop, not because I wanted proof, but because I needed to know if my instincts were lying to me. We shared an iPad at home. Same Apple ID, same cloud. I hadn't checked before because I hadn't wanted to be that guy. Now I didn't have the luxury of pretending. The messages didn't load all at once. They came in fragments, timestamps, previews, names, enough to make my chest tighten before I even clicked. Mark, weeks, months. Nothing explicit at first. Work jokes, complaints about meetings, shared frustrations. Then the tone shifted. Compliments disguised as encouragement. Late night check-ins that weren't about work at all. Then I saw it, her. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if we met sooner. I stared at the screen until the words blurred. Mark, I think about that too. If things were different, that word again. The one people use when they want to rewrite their choices without taking responsibility for them. I scrolled. There it was, the message that made my hands go cold. Mark, if I didn't have the baby, I'd already be at your place. She hadn't shut it down. She hadn't told him to stop. She replied with a laughing emoji. I closed the laptop slowly, not because I was done, but because I needed a second to breathe. This wasn't just texting. This was planning. Testing boundaries, mocking the life we'd built while standing inside it. The waitress refilled my coffee without asking. I thanked her out of habit. My voice sounded normal. That scared me more than anger would have. Back in the car, my phone buzzed again. This time it was her. You're overreacting. He's married. He just had a baby. This isn't real. I didn't answer because something had shifted. This wasn't about catching her anymore. It wasn't about yelling or proving I was right. It was about understanding who she chose to protect when the truth finally stood in front of us. I drove home just before sunrise. The house was dark. She was asleep or pretending to be. I didn't wake her. Instead, I opened a new folder on my laptop and saved every message. Screenshots, timestamps, nothing edited, nothing exaggerated. I wasn't planning revenge. I was preparing for reality. And reality was this. She'd minimized it because she didn't think I'd walk away. She'd stayed silent because silence had always worked before. This time, it wouldn't. Because the next move wasn't about confrontation. It was about consequences. I didn't confront her right away. That surprised even me. For years, I'd been the one who wanted to talk things through immediately. Fix it, smooth it over, pretend the cracks weren't structural. This time, I needed to see who she would be when she thought the storm had passed. That morning, she acted almost normal. Coffee, a quick, "Did you sleep okay?" without meeting my eyes. She moved around the kitchen like someone navigating furniture in the dark. Careful, tentative, hoping not to bump into anything sharp. "I told you," she said casually, buttering toast. It was nothing, just words. People joke. I watched her hands instead of her face. "Did you tell him to stop?" I asked. She sighed, annoyed now. Why would I? That would make it awkward at work. That was the moment something inside me finally settled. Not broke, settled, like dust after an explosion. She wasn't afraid of hurting me. She was afraid of making things awkward for him. I nodded once. Okay. She relaxed visibly, mistaking my calm for surrender. That night I emailed a family law attorney. Not because I wanted to burn everything down, but because I wanted to know my options before emotions made decisions for me. 2 days later, Mark's wife emailed mine. Subject line, "I think we need to talk." I didn't even know how she'd gotten the address, but the message was short, precise, and devastating in its restraint. "I found messages between you and my husband. I'm not interested in excuses. I just need to know how long this has been going on." My wife read it on her phone while sitting next to me on the couch. I watched her face drain of color. She didn't answer right away. Instead, she turned to me, eyes wide, voice shaking. "This is blowing out of proportion." That phrase again, minimizing, deflecting. I reached for my laptop and turned it toward her. The folder was open. Everything saved, neat, labeled, undeniable. Answer her, I said quietly, or I will. She stared at the screen like it was a foreign language. You wouldn't, she whispered. I met her eyes for the first time in days. Try me, she answered, not with the truth, but with a version of it. Words chosen carefully to reduce impact, to soften, to protect herself. It didn't work. Within hours, Mark's wife replied, then his supervisor, then HR. Turns out, just texting doesn't look very innocent when it's read aloud by people who don't benefit from believing it is. By the end of the week, Mark was suspended pending investigation. My wife came home late Friday, mascara streaked, hands shaking. She tried to cry into my shoulder. I stepped back. I didn't mean for this to happen, she said. I know, I replied. You meant for it to stay hidden. Silence filled the room, the kind that finally tells the truth. I slept in the guest room that night, not out of spite, out of clarity. Because once minimization fails, all that's left is accountability. And we weren't done yet. The house felt different once the truth had a name. Not louder, not dramatic, just hollow. She avoided me now, not because she was ashamed, but because she didn't know which version of herself to perform anymore. The apologetic one hadn't worked, the minimizing one had collapsed, and the angry one would have only confirmed what I already knew. We lived like polite strangers for a week. She slept, I planned. Not revenge in the way people imagine. No shouting, no public scenes, no scorched earth. What I wanted wasn't to hurt her. It was to make sure I never had to doubt my reality again. The attorney was clear, calm, efficient. Infidelity doesn't always mean sex, she said, but intention, secrecy, emotional investment, those matter, especially when there's evidence. There was plenty of evidence, texts, deleted threads recovered, calendar entries that didn't match work meetings, a hotel bar charge from a team dinner night she swore ran late. I stopped asking questions. I stopped arguing. And that scared her more than yelling ever could. One evening, she finally cracked. You're punishing me, she said, standing in the doorway of the guest room. You're acting like I cheated. I closed my laptop and looked at her, not angry, not sad, just steady. You mocked me, I said. You planned a future with another man while lying next to me. You laughed about it. You hid it. You protected him. She opened her mouth. I raised a hand. I don't need a label for that. The next morning, I packed a bag. Not in secret, not dramatically. I left a folder on the kitchen table. Inside, copies of everything. The lawyer's card. A short note. I'm not leaving because I hate you. I'm leaving because I finally respect myself, she called. Texted, swung between rage and regret. I didn't respond. 2 weeks later, Mark resigned. Quietly, his wife filed for divorce. Their baby photos disappeared from social media like they'd never existed. My wife asked if we could talk things through. I declined. Not because I was bitter, but because clarity doesn't negotiate. Months passed, life simplified, slept better, ate better, trusted my instincts again. One night, I deleted the folder. Not because it didn't matter, but because it no longer owned me. The real revenge wasn't exposure. It was walking away with my dignity intact, while the people who thought it was just texting were left explaining their choices to a future that wouldn't forget. And for the first time since that notification lit up her phone, I didn't wonder anymore. I knew. Was this revenge perfectly justified, or should the storm have raged harder? Drop your verdict below. I read every single one. Hit like if you crave justice, and share this story with someone who needs its fire. Subscribe to Lauren's story, because here, betrayals don't sleep. They hunt their owners. Every shadow hides a reckoning. Every mask breaks, and every betrayal is answered. Stay sharp, stay unbroken, stay tuned.